When you've been in any hobby for a while, it is perhaps inevitable that you're going to have some failures. No! And when you've been in it for over a decade, they're quite big failures, some of them. Today I'm going to share my top massive crochet fails. Don't worry, you don't need to feel bad for me. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. I'll share what went wrong, often numerous things, what I learned, how I fixed them or did things differently the next time. I will also show you some of the mistakes that I've made along the way, so we can both have a bit of a laugh at my expense, but not too hard. And maybe you can avoid recreating some of my most catastrophic crochet fails. Attempting to crochet a amigurumi with double crochets. And sadly for me, but happily for you, I still have that toy. I got it into my head that I didn't know why people only used single crochets for amigurumi, when obviously if I just did tight tension double crochets, I'd be able to make it in half the time. I don't know how well this is actually showing up on the camera, but there are gaping holes in this poor little lion's head. You can see, I'm sure from looking at it, that it's a fairly crude design, although I am still very fond of it. It's one of the first things that I ever designed. And yeah, double crochets, see all the stuffing through it. In fact, even over the years, it's poking out the sides. Definitely a fail. Loose tension again when crocheting toys. I had this problem a couple of times very early on when I was constructing patterns. I had got quite used to making blankets and that sort of thing, and a casual level of tension was fine. These days when I crochet toys, I have really quite the tight tension. In fact, to the extent that I often size down hooks to compensate for my fiddly tension when I'm using particular yarns, and it resulted in, again, quite a lot of escaped yarn situations and toys that would not hold their rigidity for anything at all. Cutting loose ends too short. Do you know, I still do this sometimes. I have so many examples. I get near to the end of the project and I want to have finished it so badly that I'm like, yeah, quick, stuff it in there, short loose ends, it'll be fine. It's never fine. They always escape. I have this huge throw downstairs that just these peeking loose ends because I didn't make them long enough. They drive me crazy. But yeah, cutting ends too short. No, take my actual advice, me. Stop doing it. Overstuffing. The first few times I made toys, I was the classic overstuffer. I felt like if I could just jam enough of the wadding into there, it would give them this perfect sort of rigid held position where the features would come together in a glorious ray of light. No, all you end up is stretching, distorting it, and having lovely bits of stuffing sticking out. Understuffing, another quite big problem. When I realised the overstuffing problem, I then had a short period of time where I was so stingy with the stuffing. They just looked sort of sad and slightly deflated when I'd finished them. Getting the level of stuffing right is not easy. In fact, I made a whole video about it absolutely ages ago. I'll apologise for the production quality, but yeah, understuffing and overstuffing, yikes. It can ruin all the rest of your good work so quickly. Not sewing securely. I now have a small pile of things that I made a little while ago where, again, the sewing it together part, if I'm keeping it here, if it's not going off to somebody else, sometimes way too casual on that front. Get that limb on, get it positioned, get it looking how I want it to look, and that's fine if it then just sits on my shelf. But inevitably they don't sit on my shelf. They get played with by my children, and things very quickly start to unravel. There's a really recent example of this. This poor little wallaby. There's the baby pouch. Look at that. That's a fail. It's such an easy to fix fail as well, but because I've done this project and moved on, am I fixing it? No. Tell me. Fix that wallaby, Lucy. Write it underneath. You never know, I might listen. This open weave cushion. It was such a nice idea, and I think it kind of plays out, but I should have lined it. When I finished it and looked at it and realised I could see the cushion pad through it, did I line it? No. just left it. I kept that cushion for quite some time. Eventually it somehow, I think, got disintegrated. But oh, yeah, I was a fan of that cushion, but that open, wide open weave on something with a throw pillow insert. Don't do that. That's just silly. I think it's me trying to save time and rush again as well, because gaps in things make them go quicker, right? Can I just say as a statement, chenille, magic circles. This is possibly the thing that I bring up the most often, that is such the smallest deal, but to me, such a big thing. The amount of time that I spend fighting with plush yarn, trying to do the traditional magic circle before my friends just metaphorically leaned over and went, why don't you just chain two? I don't know, why didn't I? Because when I make amigurumi, I use magic circles. So how could I possibly do a chain two method for this yarn? Because that's not the way. No, it's a great way. Just do that. Don't fight with magic circles with chenille. If you've had to fight once for that particular yarn, don't fight anymore. Just do the chain two method. Not finishing this sweater. I love the idea of this sweater. I love the practical applications of the potential for this sweater. I adored coming up with it, and I'm just not finishing it. Why am I not finishing it? It's now the season for warm weather gear. It would be great to have it, but I'm just not. It 100% comes under the category of fail for me, because I have this nearly finished garment and I'm not finishing it, and I know me. It's a fail, because am I ever going to finish it? I mean, yeah. Making scratchy scarves. I made this mistake several times. Way back when I made a couple of scarf designs and I was super pleased with the look of them, but I am just not one for any textured yarn that is going to unsettle me even slightly. It's actually kind of the inspiration for this video, because someone wrote underneath one of my others in a comment about choosing a sort of abrasively textured yarn for a scarf that they were making for a gift for someone, and I was like, oh no, I've done that. And it's such a waste, and you've made this lovely thing and you just can't bring yourself to wear it. Such a fail. Use merino wool if you know you're the king and have millions of pounds or dollars. I'm counting it as a fail, although I do in my heart believe one day it won't be, but trying to make a giant blanket. I am making a king size blanket to go on my bed. I'm doing it with granny squares, I'm doing it with this nice cotton blend yarn. I really love what I'm doing, but it's taking so long, and because I get stuck into the toy design projects and this is just like my pick up and go thing, it's glacial. It's gonna be 5 years. I really thought it would be like a nice autumn themed present to myself in time for the fall season coming around, and that was just not true. The face on this caterpillar. Now, I still love this caterpillar. My daughter still has this caterpillar. It's again a really early design of mine, and I was so pleased with myself for making it. But this face, just why? I can't even. There's no justification for this face. I'm sorry. The stocking that I made that is just not a stocking. It's not sock shaped. It's kind of not tube shaped either. It's just sort of, it got used for at least 1 or 2 Christmases when my daughter was very small, before I just couldn't look at it any longer. I wanted to make a stocking, but I didn't want to follow a pattern. I wanted to do it myself, and I had not been crocheting for long enough to wing that one. And yeah, here's the evidence. And finally, the biggest fail I think that I have ever made in terms of a crochet project ever, and it wasn't even one of the very first ones. There's nothing to justify why I made the design decision to do this. It's terrifying. I don't know what I was doing, or why did I choose that colour combination. Had I not got any brown yarn, I now have a perfectly giraffe-like giraffe pattern that has very much replaced the previous giraffe that I made. But I don't know what I was thinking. I guess there's something scarily charming about it, but as my historical fails go, that is probably the one that is most distinct. But what do you think? Do you have any historical crochet fails in your past that you'd be kind enough to share with us in the comments section below? I'd love to hear your thoughts and I look forward to chatting with you there.